Welcome back. Stocks are lower this morning. Take a look at futures indicating a decline of 72 points on the Dow Industrial, 60 points lower on the NASDAQ, all ahead of Federal Reserve Chairman Jay Powell's inflation remarks from Jackson Hole this morning. That will happen this morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Yesterday, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre insisted that the Biden White House did their homework on President Biden's student loan bailout and the real costs of it. Watch.
We see this as a fiscally responsible, balanced approach to doing this. Now, remember, people have said, why don't you do 50,000? We don't want to do that because we want to make sure that we do this in a fiscally responsible way. Again, not pleasing everyone, but making sure that we keep that promise, but also do it in a smart, fiscally responsible way.
All right. She said fiscally responsible 3 times there, as the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget is predicting this plan could cost between $440 and $600 billion over the next 10 years. Joining me now is the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget President, Maya MacGuineas. Maya, great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for getting up early for us from Jackson Hole, where the chairman will speak at 10 a.m. Eastern. I was very impressed with what you did the last time you joined me. And the last time you joined me, we were talking about the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, which I believe is really misnamed. Obviously, it's not going to reduce inflation. But what it will do is impact the deficit positively. And you were very, very positive about that. But now you've got more spending from this student loan bailout. Your reaction?
I mean, exactly, Maria. I was so positive and so thrilled to see that they were actually able to turn a bill that was going to borrow trillions of dollars into something that would have saved money and reduced the deficit literally for the first time in a decade. And it has barely been a week. The ink is not dry on that legislation, and the White House has single-handedly undermined all of those savings, all of the positivity that one would see from a fiscally responsible point of view with this new bill, which is most certainly not fiscally responsible. It's reckless. It really is. It is adding money into the economy at the wrong time, the wrong economics. It's the wrong policy, frankly. It's going to even drive up costs of higher ed. And it's cynical and depressing. And as you pointed out, we call it like we see it. We supported that bill a few weeks ago and now are really kind of shocked that the White House would decide to undo all that work.
Yeah, and that's why I began the conversation with saying you were real positive and you know, because I want to make sure people understand you call it straight. You've done that since when I first met you. But there's not just the impact on the deficit. There are many people out there, Larry Summers and other Democrats included, who say this will actually stoke inflation. And what bothers me, Maya, is the fact that this is also going to push the cost of tuition up. Here's Larry Lindsay in his Lindsay group yesterday. He writes this. You ready? Debt cancellation and interest forgiveness will perpetuate the extraordinarily high inflation rate for college education. In 2017, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York estimated that policy changes for student debt over the previous decade had allowed tuitions to rise by 60% more than what would have occurred otherwise. So my point is American families are dealing with inflation everywhere they look, but the cost of college has been a problem now for a long time. It's about to get worse with this.
It's exactly right. And one of the big problems we face is the way that we do economic policy through the tax code, where we try to subsidize things that we want to help people with, whether it's housing or health care or the cost of education. The way that we structure those policies actually drive up the costs. And it's why you see all of those policies, health care, education, they grow faster than the overall economy because of the ways we subsidize them. This one, in fact, is actually even worse because you're giving people the expectation now that in the future they will have more debt being canceled. And so you're going to have universities and colleges saying we can hike up tuition because people are going to come here believing they're not going to have to pay the loans that they are told that they agree to pay, and that there's going to be this ongoing cancellation situation. And it happens every time we put in some policies. They're meant to be temporary or one-off. They never stay that way. We see that constantly. So, yes, this will drive up inflation overall. It's very bad for the moment we're in with the economy. Here's the Fed trying to fight inflation, and Washington's making it worse. But in particular, it will add to the cost of higher education, which is a real problem. And it's so disappointing that this policy will make things worse.
Yeah, and you've said this before as it relates to entitlements, right? You've come on this show umpteen times saying once you give somebody something, it's very hard to wind it back. Once you tell somebody, oh, I'm going to cancel all your student debt, I'm going to give you a handout for your student debt, then they have those expectations in place. Your team called this gallingly reckless, Maya. Why is he doing it? Why? And by the way, what's fair about taxpayers on the hook for some people's loans? For college. Oh, let me look at my watch. It is only 70 days away from the midterm elections. Is this a political stunt?
I mean, it's got to be politically motivated because there's not a single policy expert who is sort of impartial and cares about the real problem of the unaffordability in higher ed who says this is the right solution. This is not going at the root causes. It's not going to make the problem better. It is going to make the economic environment in which we are in worse. And clearly, it is politically motivated. And again, I just think to have this come on the heels of Congress having negotiated for over a year to get that first deficit reduction bill passed and to undermine all of that, it must be frustrating to a lot of the people who cared about the deficit and worked so hard to get us there in the first place. This will more than this is twice as large in terms of adding to the deficit as that bill improved it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think
Maya,
politics at its worst, and I think it's...
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, politics at its worst. Here in Jackson Hole, other than my feeling bad because fiscal policy is making monetary policy more difficult, people understand this is an incredibly important meeting. I mean, there are always important meetings. There's a lot of hard work that gets done, but it's not been any time in recent memory where the inflation situation has been the way that it is right now. And to be caught between inflation and recession, something we haven't had in decades, this is a very important meeting and it will be a very important speech.
So what I was asking you is, what's the buzz on the ground over there in Jackson Hole about Powell's speech? He's going to speak in a couple of hours, 2.5 hours. We'll hear from the chairman himself. You think he will refer to the student loan handout? What do you think his remarks will center on? What have you heard?
Yeah, I haven't heard that they will talk specifically about student debt. It is a topic of conversation here for sure in all of the discussions because it just happened right before. We're focusing on how to get control of inflation. You're having something that's going to make that harder. But I have not heard word that he was going to talk about it in particular. Some members of the administration are here, so that will be interesting as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Maya, it's great to catch up with you. Enjoy the rest of the trip, and thanks very much for weighing in on all of this. Very important commentary. Thank you so much.